Hello, Dr. Ibrahim Mayaki. Thank you for receiving us in your premises here in South Africa.
It's a pleasure to have you.
NEPAD was born from the will of some African heads of states to radically transform the continent. It is assumed that at the time they had an idea of the continent they envisioned and perhaps even the challenges they would face. More than 10 years later, what infrastructure would you say has taken place? Be it the construction of thousands of kilometers of roads, thousands of kilometers of rail for integration. Has this been reinforced?
Today, we are executing agency, which means we are more into seminars, conferences, reflections, and roundtables. As an executing agency, what we are doing is defining very concrete projects at the regional level in Central Africa, North Africa, West Africa, East Africa, etc., and ensuring that these projects are implemented. There is expertise and financing available for the implementation. That is what we do now. That is what we actually do. We are present in 52 out of the 55 countries, whether through climate change projects, sustainable land management, energy, transport, renewable energy, or agriculture. We are present in 52 countries. Secondly, in terms of infrastructure, we are working on the corridor concept. Corridors are spaces within a region that go beyond a state. There are 3 or 4 countries that in these corridors, economic densities are developed by connecting several projects. It can be a road, it can be fiber optic connection, it can be a rail line, etc. In terms of corridors, we can mention some. There are the Jamena, Dakar, and Djibouti corridors. You also have the Abidjan-Lagos corridor. You have the North-South corridor, and here in Southern Africa, you have South Africa, Zimbabwe, and Mozambique. Inside this corridor, there are concrete projects. For example, the Ojas-Lagos highway of more than 4,000 kilometers is practically complete. There is also about 30 kilometers left from Niger. It will be part of a corridor because next to the highway, you will have more than 1,000 kilometers of fiber optic. You could have a gas pipeline. So if you take this highway gas pipeline and fiber optic, you have a developmental corridor.
You say that NEPAD is thinking about projects and also helping to find the funding for these projects. If you were to talk of the bridge that is supposed to link the 2 capitals of Brazzaville and Kinshasa, after all these years, why is it often felt that the delays in this achievement are extensible at will?
Currently, all the feasibility studies have practically been completed. That's in relation to the bridge. That is the case for the INGA. There is potential for funding because there is high level of returns. The only problem slowing down this project, the INGA and the bridge, are those of government policies. That is, do we have the support of the state in this regional space to ensure that this project succeeds? It is not the fault of the technicians. They have done their job. We cannot cite lack of resources as an issue because resources can be mobilized. Besides, the African Development Bank is on this project. So we must resolve the issues of government policies and get political leaders to play a role. The bulk of African problems today are linked to leadership issues.
So what can NEPAD do to make things happen?
Our role is to collect all the technical data to show the importance of the economic impact on this project, to take these packages and present them to the heads of state and tell them, if you implement this will be the positive result on the economic and social levels. And that is what we are doing, and we are listening more and more.
There are certain difficulties that are therefore linked to good governance. So it seems that there is a need to initiate reforms to bring down these blockades. I know that you often like to see the glass half full rather than half empty. What countries would you say have succeeded in setting up reforms to change things?
These countries have them all over. You have a spectrum that goes from Botswana to the Central African Republic. There are two countries of similar size, same population, and same density in terms of resources. They had independence at about the same time, and at that time, they both had more than $400 of GDP per capita. Today, Botswana has multiplied its GDP per capita by 20, and the CAR has divided it by 2. These two countries are in the same continent, but they do not have the same strategies. They have not had the same roots. They have not experienced the same conflicts. One has been privileged to have an inclusive government, and the other has suffered loads of conflict until very recently, where there is stability. African countries are in a spectrum that goes from Botswana to Central African Republic. Some look a little more like the Central African Republic, and many like Botswana. Regionally, there is an Africa that is advancing rapidly. That is East Africa, because they have a very coordinated regional space. They plan together, they execute together. Just an example on the Central Corridor. When they get together, they try to take stock. How do we advance in terms of roads? How do we advance in terms of rails? These are issues that bother them, and this region is now the one with the best economic integration.
Central Africa is often referred to as a bad pupil. Why does it not copy the good example?
Well, that's a very good question, and that's the question we are asking. We are already working on the answers to those questions and how to get to the level of Central Africa. We are already working a lot with the EWCAS. We have a team that we meet with the EWCAS next week on matters relating to agriculture and infrastructure, and we feel that we will exist, and so we must push also that Central Africa looks a lot more like East Africa.
When we talk about transformation, there is need to provide Africa with an industrial fabric. But you note today that progress is far from meeting expectations compared to other continents. This implies that the project to accelerate the development of Africa by the African Union 10 years ago has certain shortcomings.
Now, there are three things. First, it should be noted that the industrialization of this continent will not happen without a transformation of agriculture, as has been done elsewhere. In the US and in Europe, etc., for the transformation of agriculture, we have come up with a strategy called CAADP, the Comprehensive African Agricultural Developmental Program, which sets a number of objectives to invest more in agriculture sector, more than 10% of public resources, to have rates that exceed or close to 6%, bring the private sector into bankable projects, develop value chain and set up agribusiness. It is this agricultural transformation that will enable us form the basis of agricultural industrialization. Secondly, we have to think in terms of foreign direct investment. Yes, but we also have to think in terms of creating small and medium-sized enterprises. You know, we have an extremely important informal sector, which is more than 70% of the economy, with energy, vigor, and entrepreneurs full of ideas. We have to channel that energy to the formal sector, small and medium-scale enterprises that will constitute an industrial fabric. Thirdly, we must innovate technologically. And for this, we do not need to create laboratories that invent, because we can use all the current technical inventions to advance. Today in Rwanda, a small-scale farmer can get his seeds delivered by drone. In Mali, a small-scale farmer can have a solar panel that gives him power not only for his well, but also for his television and cell phone. That is cell phone. He can have applications that even if he is an illiterate, will help him enhance his practice.
We know that the continent is rich in its youth, and there is need to empower it. In which sector today should you say would be right for it to be guided or put in place the means for it to really feel the impact on the development of the continent?
Now, to return to my previous answer on agribusiness, it's really an area we have to reorientate our young people. You know that agricultural development, agricultural processing was not considered very attractive by our youths because they had an image of subsistence agriculture. They did not have the image of agriculture as a business that can generate money, and as is the case, the role of the state is to support them in this area. And we have a program which focuses on the skills of the youth and job creation, which aim to create jobs in rural areas, agricultural and non-agricultural related jobs for the youth. And this requires the strengthening of our vocational training institutes, which have been set aside, and we are trying to revitalize in many ways.
It is on this positive note that we put an end to this interview. Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.